I'm Roy Sonne. Welcome to the School of Violin Artistry. In this video, we're going to study the Mazas Etude number 1. This is one that a lot of people skip, and that's a shame, because this develops some essential skills that you need for artistic slow playing. We need to shape the phrases and shape the individual notes using the resources of bow speed, bow division, bow pressure, sounding point, and vibrato. And we need to integrate all this into a musical concept. Let's first establish a tempo. I think 60 is a good tempo. It's broad and spacious, with plenty of room for nuance. But yet it's not painfully slow, and if you're using your bow properly, you shouldn't feel cramped. You shouldn't feel like you're running out of bow. So, the first note starts gently, with no accent. In fact, it can sneak in. Start the note about 4 or 5 inches from the frog. Practice starting the note like this 5 or 10 times until you have something that sounds good and that you can rely on. Next step is to play the first note over and over again to establish a beautiful smooth curve. Here's a picture of that curve. It's smooth and it's gradual with no bumps and no sharp edges. It doesn't do this. We need to find the right proportions and the right mix of ingredients. One ingredient is bow speed. The bow starts moving slowly, then it speeds up, then it slows down. I'm also dealing with bow pressure. The note starts with a flautando bow, then I'm gradually adding a little bow pressure, not too much. I'm also using the sounding point. I'm starting with the bow pretty close to the fingerboard. The bow towards the bridge and back towards the fingerboard. This is all about your sensitivity to the tone and response of your instrument. What we're dealing with here is violin artistry. Here's the second note. Now we have another element, vibrato. The note starts without vibrato, then after the second beat the vibrato kicks in, a very narrow vibrato. The vibrato gradually gets wider, and then it dies down at the end of the note so that there's no more vibrato at the end. Key word is gradual, and that's what needs to be practiced. Now, we have 4 half notes with a crescendo. Each note gets more bow, and more bow pressure, and more vibrato. And each note has a little bit of crescendo to the next note, especially the last note, the E. By the time you reach the middle of that note, you should be at the top of the hill. You're coasting. You wouldn't give the car an extra spurt of gas at the very top. That's not very musical. We just coast from the E to the D. Here's the whole group again. And then gradually we come down the hill. But not all at once. gradually. Then there's that little nuance at the end, the little hairpin, with vibrato. And the last note is really great with no vibrato. Here's the whole phrase once more. So, we've basically established everything we need to play this whole piece. There are just a few more points I want to cover. In the first two measures, we have piano and forte marked. With all due respect to Mr. Mazas, I don't agree with that. I feel that the first note should start pianissimo, with the softest possible sound, and should crescendo maybe to mezzo piano. So, the high point of the first note is much less than what we're going to arrive at in the fifth measure. The swell should be very noticeable and very meaningful, but not too much. How much is too much? That's where your taste comes in. That's where you become an artist. You might try something else. You might try starting the first note in the middle of the bow to leave yourself even more room for the bigger crescendo. Now, the whole notes, starting in measure 13, can have a little bit of space between them. How much space? That's up to you. The thing we want to avoid is any extraneous noise between the notes, like this. That's an exaggeration, but we want to avoid even the slightest hint of any extraneous noise. Here's the right way again. Starting in measure 51, there are sforzandos. They're singing sforzandos, consistent with the character of the piece. Don't make a sharp accent like this. Singing sforzandos. In measure 56, make sure the 16th notes are precisely in tempo. Measure 57. Each note has a crescendo and then a little breathing space before the next note. So, that's the end of our study of Mazas number 1. Please take this opportunity to use your violinistic tools to make something exquisitely beautiful.